Hey Virgo. Um, so this is the Wildwood Tarot, and it's very, I guess the word I would use is organic, and I love it. So let's start with the first card. So we have the Hierophant. So this would be, I used to have trouble with this card because I immediately thought of the Pope, and personally for me, I'm not really into organized religion per se. Um, So I had sort of, for some reason, I don't know why, but a negative association with this card. But I really think that I have to broaden my idea of what, instead of thinking religion, think of it as a spiritual leader, um, which is something that I would be much more, that would be more meaningful to me. So I really try to think of this person more as like the Dalai Lama or someone who who teaches peace and things like that. So not it doesn't have to be so dogmatic or it doesn't have to be just get away of that association with organized religion. So this is a leader who really inspires us to live practice what we preach, I think is a good way to put it. So, if you're preach tolerance and inclusivity and things like that, make sure that we actually really do put those um, thoughts into practice in our everyday life and really examine whether we do that or not. Um, and if we don't, that's an area that we can work on. So this leader, spiritual leader, really embodies. Not only does he or she able to um, teach us, but um, they themselves live their lives in alignment with their beliefs, which is a true leader in my opinion. Not there's no do as I say, not as I do. This person walks the walk. So this card can come up in your life um, in a couple different ways. It can come up when you're sort of searching for something that maybe you're feeling a little lost and you need someone to help you find your way. So often if you're in need of a teacher, this card will come up, especially if you're kind of feeling a little lost spiritually, you're feeling lonely or confused or sort of divine discontent. I read that in some book. I don't even know what card it went to, but I really like that. Just sort of some basic, something just isn't quite right and you can't quite put your finger on it because it's not necessarily tangible. It's just kind of, you're feeling like you need to change something. So you could maybe try to seek out a teacher, um, get a book, anything, just get out into nature. Because again, this doesn't actually even have to be a person. Wherever you feel at peace and you can sort of go within and get centered and help find yourself. It could be a yoga teacher. Maybe you really need to breathe, a counselor, all sorts of things. So let's jump into the next card. And yeah, so the Four of Cups. So the Four of Cups um, in the classic Rider-Waite deck shows someone sitting under a tree and they look, mopey and sad, and they're staring at this cup that's spilled over. Yet behind the person are three full cups that are still upright. So it talks about apathy, boredom. It's those times in our life where either we're just being blind to the fact of all the good we have, but it's really just hyper focusing on something negative, like the one thing that, oh, if I only had that, everything would be great, and ignoring all the good things that we do have. So it really calls on us to bring perspective into our lives, and it's a little bit of a, if you're obsessed with something, so you can just be obsessed with something that hasn't gone right, or whether it's a relationship, a person, whatever you become hyper focused on, and you think that only if that happens are you ever going to be happy again, or that's the sole reason for your unhappiness, and you're just completely blind to all the other things that you really do have. You only have one cup that's tipped over and three full ones. So are you really being balanced in your thinking and your perspective? Um, and perhaps if you focus on something else and don't put, where your energy and thoughts go, your energy goes. So if you're just constantly harping on this one negative thing, it's going to become all consuming, and it's really distorting your actual experience in your life and what you really have and what you're really experiencing, because you're just so hyper focused on one thing. It's not healthy. It's not good for you emotionally. You need to try to somehow bring balance, and I think that's where this person, this person, or however you want to try to center yourself and open up your mind. For me, it's really tarot cards. They help me consider different perspectives and um, meditate, and they really make me feel better about things actually after I read them. So, whatever it is, maybe it's going for a run. It doesn't have to be um, going to church, but that may be it for you too, and that's perfectly fine. So I'm not really sure. I'm still getting to know these cards. This one actually is interesting that this came up, because this was particularly uh, not confusing, but I'm just not sure of the interpretation. I don't know them well enough. But I guess, yeah, I'm gonna go back to that, because I'm not. I'll see what the other cards are like, and see how to tie them all together. But I think that's interesting. I think this is a woman, and I really like that, because it, traditionally you would think of a hunter as being a man. So this lady is out here hunting, taking care of herself. So I think, maybe that's a good interpretation. She's steering her life because she's not waiting around for someone else to provide for her. She's going out and securing dinner, and her, nourishment all by herself. So let's check out the next card. And I love about this deck too is they have animals. After a while, all the people in the regular tarot deck honestly can get a little, they can kind of all blur together for me. It's just people, especially when you get a lot of people, a lot of court cards in one reading. It's just, I mean, it kind of makes sense because, of course, in life there are people all around you. So it, it does make sense, but it gets a little, I don't know. Sometimes it's just hard to tease them out exactly, what it means, and sort through the different people and really see a distinct difference between all of them. So I like that this deck uses animals. So this is the Knight of Arrows, which would be the Knight of Swords, and it shows a hawk. And I think this is just perfect. Swords are very analytical. They don't tend to be emotional people. In fact, they can come off as cold, and they hurt people that are emotional. They'll really hurt their feelings, not meaning to. They're just very clinical and exact. This would be a lawyer, right and wrong, not too interested in or tolerant of emotions. So the hawk is a true predator, and they see things very clearly from very far away. So they do not allow, a predator doesn't feel guilty for shooting. I'm looking at the arrow, for killing its prey. It's hungry and needs to eat, and it's very logical. I need to eat something. I need to kill it. and that's the way it's going to go. So it's interesting. It sort of ties into that first card where I just talked about hunting. So I'm talking about hunting for the second time. And being that these cards are very organic, that kind of makes sense because we can pretend, we don't hunt nowadays. We have other ways of getting our food, but up until recently, I mean, it's very normal for people to go out and hunt. And I know a lot of people in Vermont still rely on hunting season and getting a deer for feeding their family through the winter. It is actually somewhat still real here, and especially in developing countries. So this person is going, and the knight always talks about change. So if you're looking to make a change in your life, you would do well to try to we talk about this a lot, set your emotions aside and maybe be a little, it may seem, if you're an emotional person, a little heartless. And it's not that you're not using your heart, it's just you're making the decision with your head. And they don't necessarily have to conflict. It's just you would do well, whatever's on your plate right now, to make a very logical decision that doesn't involve your, letting emotions steer you. So we'll take a look at the next card here. And we have another, the Three of Arrows. Interesting. So each card has either, if it doesn't have an arrow in it, it is an arrow card, which is a sword card. So the Three of Arrows, the Three of Swords, usually, and I like to, sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. There are keywords on this card, and that's why it's kind of nice. The Crowley deck has keywords, so this has keywords. I really like that. So this has a Three of Arrows as jealousy, which is very interesting. I don't know why I never thought of that way. It makes sense because this can talk about having a broken heart. So, for example, if your significant other or former significant other all of a sudden is seeing someone else, that can be pretty heartbreaking, whether you want to be with them or not. It can make you jealous, logical or not. So I think the message behind this card is really that. So let's use the example of if someone, an ex-boyfriend or girlfriend of yours, is now seeing someone else and you're feeling very jealous. Okay, that's being emotional. Now, let's think about the way a sword would think about it. If you take away those emotions, is it logical to be jealous? I mean, you can understand, what it feels like, but does it really make sense? I mean, do you want the person back? Probably the answer is no. No. Then, do you want them to be unhappy? No, probably, I don't know. If you're jealous, I mean, if you don't like the person whatsoever, you won't be jealous. So if you're jealous, there has to be some sort of feelings there. But if you don't want this person as a romantic partner, and you do still care about them on some level enough that you're jealous, well, don't you want them to be happy? I mean, if you're being logical, yeah, of course you want them to be happy. So maybe if you sort of try to talk yourself through those, being very rational, once you think about it that way, it's like it'll be easier to sort of let go of those jealousy, those feelings. And that can really be applicable to anything. If you're feeling jealous, and that can, that feeling, it's that, that pit in your stomach, like it's kind of, I think, a loss of control more than anything. And so just sometimes saying, I'm going to let that go, just like to be really, to really go on this arrow thing, just, let it go. Like the archer, just fling that arrow and just let it go. I mean, you don't have control anymore, and just sort of surrendered that you don't have power. And it's okay, because honestly, it's really none of your business anyway. Um, so I just want to look at them all together. I just love all the scenery, the nature. It's really great. So this hawk, he's way up in this tree, and he's looking at us. So I think he's really the main card that jumps out for me in this reading. To really, maybe he sees so far, like look how much he's way above, he can see for miles and miles. And perhaps if you remember to look at the big picture and look far ahead, whatever's happening right now will lose some of its power, because it isn't things always seem like a really big deal when they're happening, but when you get some perspective, like this hawk way up in the tree, it it really isn't the worst thing in the world that's going to ruin your life. It's hard at the moment, but in the big picture, it's just one setback, but it's not something you can't recover from, and it completely be okay. And I think the archer, the chariot, really, you know, take control. It's time for you to take control of yourself and look what you want, but you need to let go of things that you have no business um, controlling anymore. So you have to really think about what you can control and what is something that isn't in your realm. That's not really something that's your business to control. And stop wasting energy on things that you can't control, because it's absolute waste of time. So really, I think, yeah, I love this. I love this hawk. Just, I think, really try to look where you're going and focus your intention, your thoughts on where you want to go, and try not to get too bogged down with what's going on right now that may be feel making you feel not so good, because it will pass, and you just got to keep looking ahead, and not living in the past and worrying about things you can't control. Um, Maybe make some really long term goals and try to make yourself focus on things like that, instead of obsessing about what's, the Three of Arrows right now. And because if you're sitting there obsessing about feeling jealous and letting that eat away at you, that's what you're going to be thinking about. So if you can just sort of train your mind to think of something else, just focus, say, okay, you know what? That's distracting me, but I have all these other goals and things I want to do. Pick one and just start thinking about that, and, make yourself become obsessed with that. And it's a productive thing to obsess about, instead of something that you can't control. So I'm just going to throw up a couple more of these cards just for fun, just to look at it. So that's the King of Vessels, is a heron. So it's a water bird. I love that. That's the Death card. It's called the Guardian. The Five of Stones, Endurance. Oh, see, that's a wonderful way to look at that card. There's the Queen. She's a fish, of course, a salmon. The Woodward. So that's Justice. He kind of looks like maybe a shaman, like, or maybe the chief leader of a tribe that would be the one that would make the decisions, and not letting your emotions rule. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next video. Take care.